Is modern shonen better than the big three? I don't know. There's a lot of online discussion about the differences between old shonen like One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto, and new shonen like Demon Slayer, My Hero Academia, and Dandadan. Some people point to better ideas or depth in old series because Demon Slayer is bad or something, which is just kind of a nothing claim on its face. Others may point to newer shonen having better pacing, which I believe is sort of untrue. If you remove the filler from old anime, it really hasn't changed much, and the main thing that's changed is anime release cycles, as people don't really do continuous airing anymore, so there's less filler per series. We've entered this new era of explosive success for series like Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, Frieren, and of course, given the video title, Dandadan. And in my eyes, all these listed series, only sorta including JJK, not really, have one thing in common, and to stay true to my video title because I'm going to lay off the bait and switches on this channel for a bit, we will be using Dandadan to examine what has changed about modern day shonen, or rather, what hasn't changed. Now, I'll lay it out here. I'm not the world's biggest Dandadan fan. I'm up to date with the manga, and I have it at a soft 6 out of 10. And I really do enjoy the adaptation. It's not really my cup of tea, but it has a lot of backstories I really like, but there's something I think Dandadan does exceptionally well that exemplifies why it and other shonen are a success. Of course, this isn't a shonen exclusive issue, this is a story issue, but a lot of series suffer from something called scope creep. This is a term often used in project management, and you may have heard of it especially if you spend time in gaming spaces. I've touched on it on this channel before, and it refers to how the scope of a project can continually increase until you've spread yourself too thin. You can think of scope as just a literal spotlight that kind of looks like one. In this spotlight, we have our core ideas. This shows what we are focusing on. Let's take a shonen like My Hero Academia as an example. This is a series I feel got a bit too big for its britches, and as I continue to tack on interesting concepts to explore, well, this all won't fit in the scope anymore, so let's increase the spotlight a little bit. Then we can add some more ideas, but now it won't fit again, so let's increase the scope a bit more, and so on until you've run for 431 chapters, and you have a very unsatisfying conclusion because you couldn't tackle all these ideas. One of My Hero Academia's many issues is that it spread itself far, far too thin, introducing tons of interesting ideas that hooked a lot of readers and watchers, and then had to hastily wrap itself up, which led to a lot of those concepts posited by the story to feel underdeveloped, unfocused, and overall lacking by the time the series ended. In fact, like 60% of the time a series ends, it's met with some of the most extreme backlash you can get. The rest of the time, the fanbase just goes, yeah, that was good, because they weren't overpromised anything. A series like Demon Slayer still got a lot of backlash because it's kind of the thing to dunk on it, and when you step outside of the internets and, you actually touch grass, Demon Slayer is beloved. But a series like that and Dandadan could avoid a lot of ire due to their simplicity. Now, okay, I know what you're thinking. Simplicity is kind of a loaded word. A lot of people feel when you call something simple, it's an attack on the work, and to be fair, in a lot of online discourse that is the case, but I don't think it should be that way. Not every series has to set out to lay some grand, wide-sweeping social commentary. Not every series has to have a comment on the state of the world, or religion, or have deep symbolism, and this ties back into the discussion we just had about scope. There is elegance in itself in refining what your series is about, rather than continually expanding the scope, and as someone who is caught up to the Dandadan manga, I think that's exactly what the series is good at, limiting its scope. And through this focused lens, Dandadan hits all the beats that it tries to. It follows an admittedly pretty basic formula, an insane premise that's out of a slapstick series, the introduction of a new character that is generally linked to that premise, setting into the action with insane set pieces and oftentimes a tonal shift, before declaring victory and winding down the arc with a dinner scene. Now, don't get it twisted. Just because Dandadan is formulaic or small in scope, doesn't mean it can't have its emotionally impactful moments either. I mean, Episode 7 made waves throughout the anime community. A scene with little to no dialogue that displays the struggles of a single mother doing what she can to give her daughter the life she deserves. Letting you know where Silky comes from, her lost opportunities, and her wish for her child, pushing her into a horrific situation. It makes her out to be more than the monster of the week. It isn't something to do with ghosts or aliens, but it's the real story of someone struggling to make ends meet. To put it plainly, it's one of the best episodes of 2024, and it's a complete shift from what Dandadan usually feels like. The first of its kind for anime-only viewers, before following the formula I spoke about earlier, where the arc ends with a dinner scene that will also become customary for the story. It's a great method to take a deep breath after what tragedy we just witnessed, helping us explore all of our character dynamics, progression in relationships, newfound connections, and letting us discover more about the new characters we're going to be following for the rest of the series. Dandadan doesn't inadvertently sabotage itself by adding in unneeded complexity, plot threads, or commentary. I want to again reiterate that having those things doesn't make a story bad. It's again about scope. It knows what it wants to do, It focuses, and it gets it done. And this isn't even to say that series with smaller scopes are less complex, necessarily. I would say Chainsaw Man Part 1 had a pretty small scope, but it told a great story about power dynamics, abusive relationships, growing up, and more in under 100 chapters. There's also definitely a comment to be made about stories losing their path and how it relates to author health. The manga industry, and of course the anime industry as well, is inherently extremely exploitative. I can't imagine how tough it must be to keep an entire story straight in your mind while you're working 19-hour days, sleeping 2 hours a night, and skipping 2 meals every day just to get your work done. You can find out more about this in my videos talking about mangaka working conditions, but I think it's something that can't be ignored when discussing how the scope can be increased, inadvertently. While there are some people who are too online that love to slap on their nostalgia glasses and talk about how the big three were so much better than what we get these days, they aren't fundamentally too different. Most likely, you just grew up. It's possible that these smaller scoped series just impress you more when you were younger, and your tastes change as you get older. Dragon Ball is not the world's most complex series, and Demon Slayer or Dandadan continue what series like Dragon Ball did. They pick what they're good at, and they stick to it. And while making this video, there was discourse about this very topic, which is what always fucking happens when I'm making a video. Sakamoto Days released a really lackluster opening, which has a lot of people fearing that the anime won't be able to hit the mark with the series. Let's not get it twisted. Sakamoto Days is not complex. It is, once again, however, a series with an idea that it sticks to. It regularly delivers some of the coolest choreography, set pieces, and action out of any manga I am reading. That's what it wants to do, and that's what it does. And some people take you saying that as an insult when it's not. That is what it's good at. And to be fair, these kinds of series aren't for everyone. I know Demon Slayer is the world's most popular punching bag online, and I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of it, besides when I want to watch a bunch of pretty flashing lights like a baby with keys in front of it, but you often see these kinds of negative hate spaces form around series when they're already extremely successful. Demon Slayer gets dunked on all the time because it's popular, because that small scope grabbed an absolutely massive audience. And personally, what Dandadan chooses to focus on, while it's not a series that really grabs me like some of the other stuff I've spoken about on this channel, I can greatly appreciate what it's trying to communicate. Dandadan is telling a simple story about the difficulties of growing up and the oddities of teenage life. That is the central premise with Okuron and Momo's descent into this other world filled with occult references, aliens, and ghosts. Being thrust into a wide, unfamiliar world without the proper preparations, much like adult life. There are things you don't recognize, things you don't understand, and sometimes the adults in your life might not be the best at informing you of what is to come, or to truly prepare you for it. And it also has a really nice message about people being more than your first encounter with them. The way you're introduced to someone can tell you a lot about them, but does that singular moment really define their whole existence? Well, Dandadan doesn't think so. Throughout the show, they continually gather this wide cast of characters, and our first intro to them is usually not them at their best. The author intentionally displays their least appealing side first. Ira making fun of Okaron, Gigi doing whatever this is, future characters in the manga I won't get into for spoiler purposes, but after adding them to our party, we get to explore their lives, their intricacies, and who they are down to their core more and more, and of course, as mentioned before, the dinner scenes also elevate that sense of understanding. Dandadan is about the horror of growing up. Whether it be ghosts or aliens, they're analogous to that fear. You learn a lot about your body, you show the worst of yourself, you have so much to learn, but there is so much more to you than that first impression. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe for more. You can also check the description down below to become a member, which gives you benefits like early videos, membership badges, and cool custom emotes. You can join the Discord where we talk about Re:Zero, Kagurabachi, Jujutsu Kaisen, and all kind of stuff. Additionally, you can go to the channel store and pick up some awesome stickers made by our channel artist, so you can carry the power of Graphia with you on your water bottle. That's about it though. Thank you for watching. See ya.